Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Sporting Max, where today we're with Southeast Melbourne Magic legend Andrew Parkinson. Welcome to the podcast, Andrew. How you going?
I'm going pretty well, thanks, Max. And legend might be a bit of a stretch, but I'm going to take it. I'll take the legend call.
Can you tell me about your childhood and what growing up was like for you?
Sure. I grew up in Noble Park, and in the 70s. I was born in 67. So, and back in those days, basketball, I was introduced to basketball by my parents. So they both played at a state level, and my dad actually made an Olympic squad in 64. So I was introduced to basketball through them. And in the 70s, basketball wasn't really cool. It was, people used to think, oh, it's just netball, it's a sissies game. Whereas now I think it's considered to be pretty cool. I think after the Jordan era in the 90s, and now with Steph Curry and LeBron James and Durant and all that, I think basketball's sort of become, it's not considered, I guess, a sissy sport anymore. And it's, it was, so I grew up, sort of in a big, in Victoria, as you would know, it's a big footy city, and cricket. So footy and cricket, footy in the winter, cricket in the summer. But the beauty of basketball was it was all year round, and and it was indoors, which I loved because Melbourne weather's not always the greatest at times. So I took a liking to basketball. I loved all sports. I played footy and cricket, and I played tennis, and of course played basketball. But yeah, basketball was the sport I probably loved the most, and it was the sport that I was probably better at, because I think I'm a frustrated AFL player, because I really love AFL, and I would have loved to have been good at AFL, but my calling was basketball.
So at what age did you start taking an interest or were passionate about basketball?
Well, my dad coached and sort of played, so I was always interested in basketball, and I used to just want to be like him. I kind of, from the age of 7, I started playing at the Dandenong Stadium, which is not the fancy Stud Road facility they have. It was in the markets. They had 2 stadiums. Mm-hmm. And one of the courts, this is how old I am, Max, one of the courts was concrete. When I think I played my first game of basketball on concrete in the courts at Cleland Street in Dandenong, in the markets there. So that was... I still remember vividly my first game of basketball. I didn't want to take off my tracksuit pants because it was really cold. And I guess the cement floors didn't help out in that area either. So I started playing at 7, and as I said, I played other sports, but basketball was the one sort of constant that I loved.
Now, you played junior basketball for the Melbourne Tigers in under 14s. What was this like for you at a young age?
It was great. I was coached by Ken Watson, the late great Ken Watson, rest in peace. And he was a great coach, for that age group, I think, well, for me anyway. And we actually went to an Australian Championships in Canberra, which was my first ever sort of major basketball tournament. And all the family drove up to Canberra and we played, and it was a big deal. And that's why in 2015, with my daughter playing at Bulleen, in under 14, they made the Australian Championships, but they actually won it all, and that was in 2015 when she was under 14s. So that was interesting, a different sort of side of it from the parents, because from the parents' side, whereas when I experienced it as a kid, it was such a great highlight. So no, it was a good experience. I was only at the Tigers for a couple of years, and then I sort of went on to Knox and played sort of under 18s there, and then senior, I started playing there in their SEBL team, which is, I guess, like NBL 1 now. They call it big NBL 1. What's been called CBA and SEBL and SEABL, and it's had a lot of different names. But I represented the mighty Knox Raiders in the SEABL, I think it was at the time.
Now, I believe you played for the Geelong Supercats for 2 years in the late 80s. What was this experience like, and how did this you signing with the Supercats really happen?
Well, it happened, Max, because I was actually in college in America. I got a scholarship to a Division II school called Slippery Rock University, and that was in Pennsylvania. An even colder place than Melbourne. It was in the snow belt. So walking to class, through snow to get to classes and trainings and stuff was an experience. But so I was over there in 1988, in 1989, or the start of 89, and I got a call from Barry Barnes, who was coaching the Geelong Supercats. He'd just got the job. The Geelong Supercats in 1988 had a 0-24 record. I think they might be the only NBL team that's ever gone through a season without getting a victory. And then the following year, he was looking to recruit some players, and Shane Hill was our point guard, a young Shane Hill. I think he was only 17 at that time. So he called me when I was in college, and and to have the opportunity to come and play in the NBL, especially in Victoria, which was my home state. It was in Geelong, which meant, I lived in Geelong, but I was only an hour down the road from my parents and family and friends.
Yeah.
So that's how that eventuated. So I got to play at Geelong, Supercats for 2 years in 1989 and 90, under Barry Barnes and with Shane Hill. And that sort of kicked off my NBL career, my professional career.
So what was that like to play with the great Shane Hill?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, we became great mates, and we hung around. We were a similar age. I was a few years older than him, but he was a very early developer. And by that stage, he was fairly established. He was the starting point guard, and he was actually doing some amazing things in the NBL as a teenager. Whereas myself, I was a bit more of a late bloomer. I played my first NBL game when I was 21. I was 21, whereas Shane, I think, played at the Bullets in '87 when he was 16, something like that. So he was ahead of his time.
You played for the Southern Melbourne Saints in 1991. Talk to me about the season and your mindset over the course of the year, and when you have the big ups and then also downs as a group.
Yeah, no, well, that was the case. With the Saints, I was lucky enough. I actually got let go. I think that's a nice way of saying I was sacked. So I was let go by the Supercats, and luckily I was picked up by the Saints. And Gary Fox was coaching. He was sort of starting a new team, and I hooked in with Simon Curl, another great Australian point guard. Well, Simon in particular is probably very underrated. Very underrated, I guess, in basketball. He's not as well known as Shane Hill, but he. So I hooked up with Simon in that year, and that was a great year for me. That was sort of my coming out year, and I think mentally it was great because I've been given a second chance. I'd been sacked or let go from the Supercats, and then I didn't have a team. So luckily I got on the Saints team, and that was a year that was really my coming out party. I managed. By the end of the year, I'd made the All-Star team, which ironically was coached by Barry Barnes, who just sacked me 9 months earlier. And I made the Australian squad for the '92 Olympics, which was also ironic because Barry Barnes was assistant coach of the Australian team, and he'd let me go. He'd sacked me 9 months earlier. So that year I averaged 22 points a game or something, and made the All-Star team. And it was when I really sort of became a professional and got really, into all the sort of dietary and the extra trainings and all that stuff. And I guess I truly, became a professional, in that year. And I also had the pleasure of scoring 50 points on the team that had sacked me 9 months earlier. So that was the last game of the '91 season.
Yeah.
We hadn't made the playoffs. We had a bit of a tough year, the Saints. I think I'm not sure how many games we won, but I don't think we managed to eke out 10 wins, but I think we got somewhere close to there. But but I got to play my old team on the last game and had 50 points, which is my all-time highest point score in NBL. So it was, it was great to do that against the team that had just sacked you 9 months earlier. What
was that game like for you when you come out and drop 50 points on a team that's let go of you or sacked you?
Well, I was a lot younger, Max, and I was probably had my attitude could have been worked on a little bit. So I was telling the coach and a few of the players from the opposition team that maybe they'd made a mistake by letting me go. I might not have said it in that nicer language, but I was letting people know that I was having a good night, and yeah, and that they maybe shouldn't have sacked me. So yeah, I had a bit of fun with that. But I've made up with Barry Barnes, and we're all fine now. And he says that he was more than happy to see me, do well, even though he sort of let me go. So yeah, no, that was a fun game. I mean, we lost the game, which is, I mean, the reason you play is to win.
Yeah.
We lost the game, and the Geelong Supercats I think they were going to play in the finals that year, so they had to play at finals. So, I would have much rather been on a successful team than been on a not so good team and be the main man. But that's a good segue into the next year, because I got to play in a pretty good team the following season.
Yeah. Well, now famous, or well, to me anyway, the Onesie Dance was recorded in this season of 91 when you were with the Saints. What was it like on set and filming with all the guys?
Well, we thought Darren Lucas was a poser, that's for sure. That's one vivid memory, which now Lucas, I obviously wasn't a teammate of his at the time. I think it was just that we were all jealous that he could dance, because if you've seen the video, Max, the moves aren't real good, but Darren Lucas can dance. He can definitely dance. He might not be able to shoot, but he can play defense and he can dance. And no, I remember it was actually a bit of a highlight for me, because Andrew Gaze was in that video. My ex-teammate Shane Hill was in it, and John Dorge, who was my ex-teammate, who then became my teammate with the Magic. I think Ray Borner was in the video. Ben Simmons' dad, Dave Simmons, was in it.
Yeah.
And a guy that's probably you'd look up to, or anyone in your position would look up to, is Bruce McAvaney.
Yeah.
He was in the video, and that was a highlight for me, because he's pretty special, even though that's his tagline. But yeah, so that was it was a great experience. And as you can probably see, as you can tell, my dancing hasn't improved since in 30 years time, but I've still got the uniform that I actually wore in that video. So
yeah,
and I still fit in it, which is probably even more important at my age.
So what did it mean to you when you won the 1991 NBL's Most Improved Player?
Yeah, no, that was great. Yeah, as I said, I was sacked, I think, about 9 or 10 months before I got that award. So for me to get another job in the NBL, get another opportunity was great. But I really grabbed that opportunity with two hands, and I think winning the Most Improved Player sort of capped that off. And I was actually sitting on the table at the NBL dinner with Bruce McAvaney and Kim Sporton, who was from Channel 7 Sport. And I remember that night, and I was honoured to receive that award. And I think when I look at some of the players on the lists that have won that award, I'm fairly humbled to be on that. To be on that list. And that was just a great sort of special year for me, which then catapulted my career, further.
In 92, you began your 6-year journey with the Southeast Melbourne Magic. What was that like for you coming into the club and making a name for yourself around the team and in the club culture? Yes,
well, culture. You've just hit the word that Brian Goorjian is what he's all about. And and he had a very he was pretty clear on what the culture was like at the Magic. And for me, the two teams merged. It was the Nunawading Spectres and the Saints, but the only player that they really picked up from the Saints was me. So I kind of came into a team. It was more like a takeover. It was more like the Spectres were sort of taking over the Saints, and they just sort of took me. There's another guy you may have heard of, Andre Lamanis.
Yep.
He was actually picked up as well from the Saints. But besides that, it was just the Spectres guys. It had the Spectres coach. It had the Spectres coaching staff, which included Kevin Goorjian and Ian Stacker, which was a great coaching staff. So I sort of went from being in a team that was missed out on the playoffs, didn't even win 10 games, straight into a team that was basically championship favourites. We were championship favourites from day one, before the season started. everyone felt like that was the team, because the Spectres had come runners up the year before to Perth in the grand final series, and they'd recruited John Dorge and David Close, and recruited a couple other, a couple of others as well. So so the team was expected to win. So I came into a team with a strong culture, and I had to make a couple of adjustments, and I had to come off the bench. I was starting obviously the year before, but with this team, I had to. My role was a bit different, so I had to come off the bench. So that took a little bit of a while to adjust to it. But I'll tell you something, Max, when you start winning championships, you're quite happy to forego your own personal sort of, your ego, I guess, if you want to call it that. Because I think I'd had the experience of playing in poor teams and being a, the main man, I guess. And then I experienced, having a lesser role, but a very important role, but a lesser role in a championship team. And I immediately found out and worked out quite quickly that was where I needed to be, and that's what I wanted to be in this special group and the special things that Brian Goorjian was doing, because that was when Brian Goorjian wasn't known to be the GOAT. He wasn't being called the GOAT back in 1992. He's definitely been called the GOAT now, and rightly so. But he hadn't won a championship yet. That was his first championship in 1992, which I constantly remind him of. Let him know that he got his first one after he recruited me. And he went on and won. We went on and won another one in 96, and then he won 3 with the Kings, and then he won 1 with the Dragons before he left for China. So he's a 6-time championship coach, and a lot of people think the Hawks could maybe do it this year, but we'll wait and see. But it was an adjustment, Max. It really was a big adjustment to go into another level of professionalism, and just the day-to-day work and the process was just honed into us. And just every aspect of it I just embraced. And I had opportunities to leave the Magic at times, but there was no way I was going to leave that special thing we had going. We had some really special players, some great young players coming through. We had Tony Ronaldson, who was young at the time, but then some Sam McKinnon came in, and Frank Dremick and Chris Anstey, Jason Smith, all those guys came in. So for me, it was just great to sort of, be a part of all of that. Before Brian Goorjian was famous, before Chris Anstey played in the NBA, and before Jason Smith captained the Boomers in Olympics, and before Sam McKinnon became Slammin' Sam McKinnon and one of the greatest, athletes that we've ever produced, playing in Olympics and world championships and things like that. So, to be part of their progression, as well as my personal progression and the team's success, I really valued at the time, and I still value to this day.
Your first season with the Magic, you guys won the NBL championship. What did this first pro championship sort of mean to you?
Well, it was everything, because coming from losing teams and not even playing, I hadn't played in a playoff game until I joined the Magic. And not only did we make the playoffs, but we went all the way and won it. And not only that, we beat a very special team, the Melbourne Tigers, in 3 games, and that was after being down 1-0. So we had to come back from a 1-0 hole and beat the team that had Andrew Gaze in his prime, with Leonard Copeland in his prime, with Mark Bradkey in his prime, Warwick Giddy in his prime. That team was just super talented, and to be able to beat them in a 3-game grand final series was definitely the highlight of my sporting career. I think it was it was only just over a year earlier I was without an NBL team, and here I was within the space of 2 years. I got getting my NBL championship ring presented to me by the late David Stern. He actually was at the game.
Yeah.
Probably the greatest sporting administrator, in the world, or definitely in basketball. And he came over at Melbourne Park in front of 16,000 people, and to get the championship trophy and to get your championship ring from David Stern in front of all your family and friends, and being from Melbourne as well, having a lot of mates there. It was live on TV. at the time on network television on Channel 10.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was the pinnacle. That was that was a great memory. It feels like it was yesterday, Max.
In 96, you won your second title with the Magic. Tell me about these 4 years in between the two championships and what those years involved for you.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned before, I mentioned some great names. They were all young guys, you know, the Drimmicks and the Smiths and McKinnons and Anstey's and even Ronaldson to some degree was younger than me. And I guess during that time, Brian's focus was to really develop some Australian, you know, talent.
Mm-hmm.
So we went through, I wouldn't say lean years. I mean, during between those two championships, 92 and 96, the league was very competitive.
Yep.
And we still managed to make the semi-finals all those years. So we might not have made the grand final in those years, but we actually I think we lost. I think we were only one game. I think in 93 and 94 and 95, I think we were only one game off winning to make another grand final. So even though, you know, we didn't win the championship those years, and I think the Tigers won in 93, and I think the Giants won in 94, and I think the Wildcats won in 95, and then we got back into it and won it in 96. But so we were still a very successful team. We just didn't get the ultimate prize. So, you know, and I remember Brian Goorjian telling us, you know, hey fellas, you know, you're going to be pretty sore and sorry individuals if you're going to be, you know, depressed and affected too much by, you know, not winning the championship every year.
Yeah.
But in saying that, our goal was to win the championship every year. It didn't matter how many young guys we had in the team. I think a couple of those years we even played with one American at the time. So the focus of Brian was to really develop these young kids. And out of those names I mentioned, you know, all 5 of those guys that I mentioned, you know, Ronaldson, McKinnon, Anstey, Drimmick, Smith, they all went on to huge things internationally, you know, at Olympics, and Chris with the NBA and things. So I think that was great, but it was great to be actually rewarded with a championship at the end of the 96 season as well. So that was kind of in some ways just as special as the one we won in 92, because we kind of knew how hard it was and how hard the league was to win the title every year. So for us to go back and win it in 96, where we met up with the Tigers again in 96 and we did the same thing again. We lost game 1 and then we came back and won game 2 and 3.
Now, did you find any difference in the feelings you experienced between your first and then your second championships?
Yep, gotcha. Well, after the first one in 92, because it was the first one, I guess, and as I said earlier, that was the first experience I had being in a winning team.
Yeah.
So it kind of, I wouldn't say it felt like it was easy, but I guess I didn't, I guess by the time 96 came around and we had 3 years where we made semi-finals and missed out on the making the big dance at the end. 96, it was more of a sense, I guess, of relief and also joy, because at that stage you kind of do realise that they're really hard to get, and some players play their whole career and don't win one championship. So to get the second one in 96 when I was 28, 29, sort of, it was really special. And I wouldn't say I took the 92 one for granted, but I definitely didn't take the 96 championship for granted, that's for sure.
Now, you hosted your own show on SEN named World Sport Overnight in early 2004. Tell me about this.
Yeah, well, that was great. I did it with Daniel Kowalski, one of our great Olympians, and I had really fun doing that, just talking about all sports. Obviously, basketball was my specialty, but I also could talk a bit of footy and a bit of cricket and the tennis. With the Grand Slam being on in January, I think that's when we started. So, no, it was that was a great experience. It was when SEN first started. It was when they first started. So, and the way it started, and I remember the way it started. It was very somber because David. It was the year David Hooks passed away. It was tragically killed. Yeah, that was the big news. And I remember going on air, I think the day that happened, and a lot of the producers and a lot of the people that we're speaking to were really affected by his passing. And I just remember that, how tough it was to sort of go on. There was a lot of people that were really struggling, but besides that, it was a great experience. The hours were 12 midnight till 6 in the morning. So having a young family, it wasn't conducive to that. But no, I really enjoyed my work in the media.
During the South Dragons' short reign in the NBL, you helped out there in the media. Can you explain to me a bit about your role in their media team?
Sure. Yeah, no, I did game day nights. So I had the mic during game day. So I'd, try and rev up the crowd a little bit, and also run the timeouts, competitions and the quarter time stuff. And it was really great to sort of be around my old coach, Brian Goorjian. So I still knew some of the players at that time. And it was, that was a great experience. And of course, they went on and won the championship that year. So, and then they folded at the end of the year, and Brian went to China. But still, we, that year, 2009, was a great year. There was a young fellow by the name of Joe Ingles playing in that team, and I really took a liking to him. I liked his game, and Mark Worthington was in that team, who I'm really close with now. I think Gibbo was in that team as well. Reece Carter. It was a great. It was a really good team and well coached. They had Brian Goorjian there, and just to be involved in it, it was really, really special.
What was that like to sit sort of at the home games and watch a young Joe Ingles go out and make his artwork?
It was great. No, it was it was great. You could see the potential in the kid, and he was a real kid then. I mean, geez, that was
18. It was 18,
12 years ago. So how old's Joe now? He's about 30. So you're right. He would have been 18. Would have been a teenager, and he was playing. And I think he does credit Brian Goorjian with a lot of, his development. He's a very proud Aussie. I think he's just been named in the squad, rightly so, for the next Olympics. So he'll be reunited with his old coach Brian. So I think Brian's going to get the best out of him. But to watch him back then, he wasn't as polished as he is now. But you could definitely see the potential in the kid. Well, the kid at the time. Yeah. Now he's a grown man, and I think he just became the leading 3-point
in Utah Jazz history.
There you go. He overtook John Stockton. So he's just done amazing things, Joe. So we hope he can help us get a gold medal at the next Olympics.
Now, I've heard that he scored 107 points in a Masters game and made 31 3-point shots. Can you tell me about this?
Yes. Well, my mates are sick of hearing this story. No, that was in a Masters Games nearly 2 years ago now. It was in 2019. It was early 2019, and we were on a Masters trip. And I'll try and give you the short version, Max. I have a 2-hour version, and then I have a 2-minute version or between. But no, I came off the bench. I subbed in for Darren Lucas because he wasn't getting it done. So I subbed in, and I hit about 4 or 5 threes, and by the end of the quarter, the guys were saying, "Oh, gee, Park, looks like he's on fire." And they said, "Oh, let's go to him a bit." So I started the second quarter. I think I had 22 points at quarter time. I think I had about five or 6 threes, a couple of twos here and there. And then the second quarter, the boys started looking for me a little bit more. And as it turned out, I had 45 points by halftime.
Oh.
That's when Chris Anstey, Mark Worthington, we had Matt Burston, we had Cam Rigby, Shane Bright, and Musti in the team. And that's when they all decided. it was mainly Chris and Wertho, the sort of main instigators. But then they made a rule that for the second half, no one else was allowed to shoot the ball except for me. Mm-hmm. So at three-quarter time, I had 77, and I started feeling a bit guilty, Max. I'd love to shoot, and I've never seen a shot I don't like, but I started to feel a little bit guilty. So I said to the boys, hey, look, let some other guys shoot now. I've got 70, 77. I've got some record. It's probably a master's record. So I said, look, I've got the record, 77 points. That's enough. And they said, oh no, try and get Kobe. Try and get. So I think Kobe had 81, didn't he?
Yep.
So I said, yeah. So I started the fourth quarter and hit a few more threes and stuff and got to 80. And I said, okay, that's it. And they said, no, keep going, get to 100. So then we were trying to chase down Wilt. And so I just kept launching. And then by the end of the game, we knew that I'd got to about 100. And they said, just keep going. So they tallied it up at the end, and I had 107. And they worked out I had 31 threes. So I was... it was a special. It was a special moment personally, but it was special because all the guys were in on it, and they were getting a lot of joy from seeing me shoot all these threes and get a high score. So, there's no way I would have. I was doing things that were happening. I was shooting a three and it had missed, and Chris Anstey would catch it, mid-air under the basket, and instead of just dunking it, he'd throw it back out to me at the three-point line, and I'd have another go at it. So I was a little bit manufactured. I think the whole team scored 128, and I had 107 of them. So I had a bit of a free reign that game.
You played in the inaugural Wudsy game. Can you tell me about the game and Wudsy and what this whole experience was like for you?
Sure. Yeah. No, we this charity Wudsy, it does great things for cancer patients. And at the time, my whole family, we hadn't been affected by this terrible disease. But I felt like it was just a great cause, because what Wudsy do is that they raise money for the actual patient, and also, give them knowledge and advice on who to go to and to get your body in an optimal level and help you fight the cancer. And they sort of have a holistic approach to it. So I thought, how great is this to be involved in it? So I got a couple of my mates involved. I got, Chris Anstey and Mark Worthington involved, and it was a great day. They had it out at the State Basketball Centre. They had a lot of ex-AFL players, and they had Rattler on the mic, and it was just a great game. And I think we raised about 30,000 for some cancer patients to help them with their treatments and to lessen the load from the financial strain and all that stuff. It was great, but the irony, the cruel irony of it is that within 8 months, I was diagnosed with small cell carcinoma cancer in my bladder, which is a very rare cancer. And I had to deal with that. And this charity reached out to me. Jodie Hooper, who runs Wudsy, reached out to me and said, hey, we want to do the next Wudsy game in your honour. And she said, would you be okay with that? And initially I was a little bit sort of accepting help and things. And then they convinced, Jodie convinced me to allow that to happen. So, so they, it hasn't happened yet, but it will. But what they've done in the meantime is it's been a lot of other fundraising things that they've done. And we've actually got a golf day coming up on the 26th of Feb. I'll have to send you a link for that so that you can, you can do what you want with that. But there's lots of, so that was a great experience playing in the game and raising that money. And then, of course, that charity sort of is now supporting me and my family.
So what's that like to go through sort of chemo and things like that with your cancer?
Yeah, no, it's pretty tough. I won't lie, Max. It's pretty tough. And, there's so many families and so many people that, have had an experience with cancer or someone in the family or their friends. And it is tough. And I've sort of been through all four things that they do with cancer. With cancer, there's surgery, there's chemotherapy, there's radiotherapy, and there's also immunotherapy. And I've actually, within the space of just over a year, I've done all four of those things.
Wow.
And I can say to you, Max, currently I'm cancer free. So I got word earlier this week that my tests for the time being are good. So I've got more tests in 10 weeks. Because it's this rare, terrible. It's no cancer's good, but this the one I've got's not real good. Because of this, the cancer that I have, they have to continually check me sort of every 2 or 3 months. So yeah, it's a little bit. It's been a challenge, but I've really been uplifted and by the basketball community. It's amazing how supportive everyone in the basketball community's been. I've had a blessed life, being able to play basketball and have so many mates from basketball, and still got mates and still making new mates from basketball by playing in Masters tournaments and still playing in competitions around Melbourne. So, and I was still playing even during chemo. I was still playing when I had a bald head. I lost my hair with the chemo, which was a bit of fun, and lost my eyebrows as well. So I'm glad to have them back. But yeah, so it was a challenge. But even with things like that, you've got to find the good, or you've got to focus on the good. And the good that's come out of me getting cancer is that I've sort of reconnected with a lot of old friends. I've had a lot of people support me, say nice things about me, and to help raise money for me and to help me and my family and help me deal with it. And I've just been getting lots of positive vibes, lots of positive thoughts and prayers. So I wouldn't say it's been a great experience, but a certain part of the experience has been great, just with the support. Even people that are, just fans of the Magic, that might have been teenagers during the 90s. A lot of those guys and girls have now grown up and they're now in their mid to late 30s. And a lot have reached out and donated things to me or for me or helped me with things. And yeah, it's just really, it was. I've just been overwhelmed. I guess that's the word I'm trying to find. I've been overwhelmed with the support of people once they found out that I was struggling.
Now, you mentioned just before the Andrew Parkinson Golf Day coming up on the 26th of Feb. Tell me about the day and who's going to be there and what this day means to you.
Oh, well, it's great for me. I mean, it was the brainchild of Nigel Purchase, who's an old Tigers man, and he got his Tigers buddies involved, which included Andrew Gaze and Mark Bradkey and Copeland and Ray Gordon, which is ironic. We might have to get back to Ray Gordon a bit later on because we were mortal enemies. And then the Magic guys, we've got Darren Lucas, Chris Anstey, Frank Drimmick, Jason Smith, myself. We're all involved in the luncheon afterwards, so we're going to have a little bit of a panel with the Magic and the Magic and the Tigers. And of course, the golf part of the day is in the morning, and they're having a bit of fun. I'm not a golfer myself, but it sounds like a lot of fun. They've got a party hole, a Happy Gilmore hole. They've got a long distance hole with Mark Bradkey on it. I think Gaze is on the party hole. So there's lots of fun prizes and fun little things going on. So we've got lots of giveaways and things like that. And so a lot of people are coming for the golf and the luncheon. Some people are just coming for the golf. Some are coming for just the luncheon. So there's something for everybody in it. And the Wudsy charity got involved. The Missing Link, Chris Feeney got involved in it. Mickey D and his social golf. I wish I could remember. I just can't remember the name of his company, but yeah, he's involved. So there's a lot of people putting in their time for it, and it's going to be a huge day. So we're just praying for good weather.
Tell me about the Ray Gordon incident.
Oh well, that's probably what I'm most not famous for, or infamy. But yeah, he and I have always been connected because in the 90s, because we were both successful teams, and we, like I said, in 92 we beat the Tigers in the championship. '93, they beat us in the semi-finals and went on to win it in '93. And then '96, we played them again. And so we had this rivalry with the Tigers. And, there wasn't, they were kind of like the family club and we were like the men in black. We were sort of, different persona. So, and Ray and I had our little thing going. And I guess it came to a head in the pre-season game when he knocked me out, basically, and was suspended for 3 months. There was not an all-in brawl, but everyone came onto the court, and Brian Goorjian was fined for coming on the court, and players, and I was suspended. I was not suspended. I was reported, but I got off. But Ray Gordon he was suspended for 3 months. So that just made the rivalry between the Magic and the Tigers even bigger because of that rivalry. And then in '96, in game 1 of the grand final, I actually got him back with my elbow, put it through his nose and stuff. So, and the commentators were onto it straight away, and they knew the significance of it, and they knew the fact that we were always battling. So so a lot of the rivalry between the two teams was manufactured. As far as I think there was a respect between the teams, but we used to make out in the press and things that, we hated each other and stuff. But I can tell you now that Ray Gordon and myself truly did hate each other. That was real. That was definitely real. But a lot of the other stuff, the rivalry that was going on was I wouldn't say manufactured, but it was dressed up a little bit. A little bit of mayo was added to it, which worked well because we used to, pack out the venue. Whenever we played the Tigers, we'd pack out the venue. So, but now we forward on many years down the track, and Ray Gordon and I have, I guess, made up, if you like. And he's actually, to my surprise, I mean, not, he's actually been a very big contributor to this golf day, and he's thrown in a lot of money, to help make it run and everything. So, I'm very grateful I can call Ray Gordon a friend now, and I think that's the beauty of sport. You can battle with someone in your career when you're a bit younger, and then when you get older and you retire, you realise that I've probably got more in common with Ray Gordon than probably 99.9% of the population. We played basketball in Melbourne, in the NBL at a certain period of time, and we've got mutual friends. And I think when you've got mutual friends with someone that you might not like so much, that wears off after a while. And we obviously we made up, and we've still got a lot of mutual friends, and we're actually friends ourselves now. So I think it's a good lesson for anyone out there. Is I think when it's your time to compete, you compete and you do your thing. But then when you retire and you get a bit older and a bit wiser, you sort of realise how important people are in your life, even people that you might not have liked too much.
So what are you doing these days after basketball?
Well, I've got a business going, a vending machine business, which was, sort of took a back seat for a while because my health was sort of the concern for what has been sort of for the last year and a half. And then the pandemic hit. So the business isn't doing that great, Max, to be honest. But I'm just sort of focusing on my health at the moment. And as I said, I've got lots of people sort of helping me. I haven't had to sell my house or sell my car or anything because I've got some people sort of chipping in and helping out. So I'm eternally grateful for, the Wudsy charity and for a lot of my ex-teammates and my ex-adversaries and just a lot of people in basketball that have sort of helped me out. So it's, I've been lucky to be able to focus on my health, and I think that's gone a long way in me getting sort of some positive results that I have had. It's been a roller coaster. I've had some bad times and some good times. So as long as I'm around, still breathing, able to talk to you, then we're I've got to be grateful.
You said you mentioned Warwick Giddy in the podcast earlier, playing for the Melbourne Tigers. His son, 19-year-old Josh Giddy, Adelaide 36ers, playing games, and he's just been named in the Boomers squad. What's it like to sort of know Warwick and versus Warwick, and now see Josh go to work?
Oh, it's great. I mean, you see that a lot with a lot of the players. You know, I played against Cecil Exum and Dante's. You know, played against Dave Simmons, and Ben Simmons is doing great things. Yeah, there's lots of Bruce Bolden's son Jonah is doing some great things. I mean, you look at Shane Hill's daughter Shyla and what she's doing in the WNBL, and she's soon to be drafted. And then you've got Josh Giddey, who I'm personally friends with him. Well, I'm friends with his dad, and Josh actually used to play in our A grade team when he was 14 or 15. We had to get special permission for him to play for us. And so I tell Josh all the time that just tell everybody that, you know, I taught you everything you knew and you learnt everything from me, which of course is not true. But even then, as a 14, 15-year-old, you could see, like, this is 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, you could see that he had something special. He's just got that knack. He plays a lot different than his father. His father was a great player, and maybe not as highly skilled as Josh, but his desire and as a rebounder, as a passer, as a scrapper, just a smart player. That's his dad. But then when you look at Josh has got all that, as well as you know, being able to handle the ball, being a great playmaker, and he can shoot. He hasn't showed that yet in the first 6 games he's played. Well, he's played 5, I think. He missed one with a concussion. But in his first 5 games, that shot's starting to that'll get there. So I think he's definitely going to go first round draft pick this year for sure. I mean, the kid's 6'8". I mean, his dad played like a forward spot, and his dad's probably 6'5", 6'6", but he played a lot taller. But then you got Josh, who's sort of playing like a point guard, and he's like 6'8", 6'9". So I'm a huge fan of Josh Giddey. I was rapt for him that he made the Australian squad, because I think that's a big goal of his, as well as making the NBA. I get great pleasure out of seeing Josh, and and I'm so happy for him and his family and the whole Giddey family, to be honest.
What was it like for you to play for the Southeast Melbourne Magic, and then now see the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix sort of evolve and pick up guys like Mitch Creek and then Adam Gibson and Kyle Adnam?
Yeah, no, I do. It's they kind of haven't identified as sort of Southeast Melbourne. So they're not. So yeah, I still I've kind of got a foot in both camps. I kind of support United and the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, because United initially, when they first came on board, they kind of embraced, you know, all the teams, the Tigers, the Giants, you know, the Magic, the Saints, the Spectre, you know, they kind of embraced it all. Plus a good mate of mine's a part owner in the club as well. So I've sort of got ties to United, and I think United every now and then, or they have in the past, they've brought out the retro uniforms. I think they've worn the Magic. Yeah, so that kind of got me going towards United. But then when Southeast Melbourne Phoenix came on board, and Tommy Greer took over that, and you know, that was I think they had Ian Stacker as an assistant coach there for a little while. And some of their players, I love watching Mitch Creek and Adnam and those guys, and Gibbo. I love still seeing Gibbo running around. Yeah. So I kind of I do identify with the team, but they kind of haven't taken on. You know, the Magic's sort of been lost a little bit, which you know, that's just worse things have happened in our lives than that. But I'm always going to be a basketball fan. I've always followed the NBL. When it first started, I was about your age, 12 or 13 I was, your age. I think you're 13, Max, aren't you? Yep.
14, almost.
Well, you're wise beyond your years, but you're a lot wiser than I was at that age. But I do remember following the NBL, and then I got to play in it from 89 to about 99. So, but I've still been a fan ever since I've retired. So, you know, and it's great having Brian back in the league. So I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Hawks. Yep. I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Cairns Taipans, because Mike Kelly, who was the MVP of our championship series in '96. So I've got a championship ring that Mike had a lot to do with. So I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Taipans, and I love the way Mirko plays up there. I love him as well. So I like the 36ers because of Josh Giddey. I liked the Hawks because of Brian Gorgon. I like the Phoenix because they're Southeast Melbourne. So I kind of, I guess the beauty of not having the team I played in, still playing in the league, I guess as the Southeast Melbourne Magic, I guess I can afford to have a foot in different camps, and I truly am a fan of the game, especially the NBL game. So I've seen a lot of, when I retired, I got to see a lot of guys finish off their careers that were a lot younger than me, and now I'm so old that I'm seeing sons of the players that like Josh Giddey come through. So the NBL for me keeps delivering and keeps me excited. And I'm just a big fan of the NBL. And I was one guy that when I was getting paid to play, I actually truly would have still played if they didn't give me a cent. I still would have played. I loved playing at Melbourne Arena, or it was Rod Laver Arena. I loved playing in front of all those people. I didn't care if we were playing out in the country at Horsham, or I didn't care where it was. I just loved playing basketball. I loved being around successful people and driven people like Brian Gorgon and all my ex-teammates. And I loved the competition. And I do feel blessed that I got to play in the 90s when basketball was really at its peak. I guess you can't remember what it was like in the 90s, but I'm sure you've done your research though. But yeah, that was when Michael Jordan, the NBA was really starting to, basketball was starting to become cool, and the crowds that we had at games and everything. The NBL hasn't quite got to that level yet, but I think it will, and it'll go on further, and I think it'll be even bigger and more supported than it was in the 90s, and I think it's definitely going to get there. We've got some great players and coaches and administrators going around at the moment, so I'm hoping to. That's part of the reason I want to stick around, Max. I want to stick around and keep following the NBL. I've been following it since day one, and I'll be following it until my last days, that's for sure.
What would be your best advice to anyone attempting to make their way into the NBL and have a successful career like yourself?
I'd say to be yourself and to believe in yourself. I think that's that's just simplified. I think that'd be the way. Yeah, just to be yourself. Don't try and be someone else. Just to be yourself, be natural, but also believe in yourself. And I think generally, if you start with the belief in yourself, then that's a bit contagious. And then if you find other people that believe in you, that's great. If you don't, well, that can be great too. So you can use things as motivation. As I said, probably one of the best things that ever happened to me was getting sacked. Getting sacked by Barry Barnes at the end of my 2 years at Geelong, which then catapulted me, to when I had another opportunity to grab it with two hands. And a lot of people aren't as lucky as me. They might not have got a second opportunity. So, to get that second opportunity and grab it with both hands, was something that I'm proud of doing. But that was basically because I was being myself, but I also believed in myself. And I think, those two things for any athlete, I think, I think that's, and I mean, the obvious ones like working hard and all that stuff. But I mean, if you're going to be yourself and you're going to believe in yourself, then you need to have that belief to be able to get through all those times and the hard trainings and the long hours and the down days and the up days, and you stick with it and never give up, and good things can happen. But I think those two are the major things: just to be yourself and to believe in yourself.
Thanks, Andrew, for coming on the podcast today. And it's been a privilege, and I was stoked to get you on the podcast and for you to share your life story.
No problem at all, Max. Anytime, and you're doing great work. And I was flattered that you asked me.
No worries, Andrew. Stay tuned, everyone, for some more Sporting Max.